Hello and welcome to the Conscious Creators Vodcast, where we have extraordinary discussions to empower you to create the story of your life. Each week you will discover how to overcome painful patterns of mental, emotional and physical distress, how to drop the mask of your public persona, and revolutionary steps of what you can do to awaken your true health and potential. You have the power to create a new story of your life starting right now. So, what's your story? What if your life was a dream, a very real dream? And what if you were to awaken from this dream, to realise you've just been surviving and you haven't really lived at all? Many people are unaware of the deeper purpose of life. Just like a hamster on a wheel, they keep busy all the time, but never quite achieve anything important or reach a destination before their energy runs out, perhaps regretting how life just passed them by. Yet it doesn't have to be this way. You have a choice to overcome any limitations, self-imposed or otherwise. Welcome to our show. I'm Victoria, and today Pete and I will dive into our limiting beliefs to remember who we are and what really matters. Hi Pete, welcome.
Hi Victoria, good evening viewers, good evening listeners. Good to be back again.
Yeah, good to have you here.
Mm-hmm.
So the only thing we know for sure is that we are born and then we die. And being alive in this moment is the only reality we have. And it is through our interactions and connections with others that we develop a deeper understanding of ourselves. So what if we were to consider the idea that we are born with our own unique set of gifts and attributes that we are here to realise? And what if this game of life is to overcome the programming installed from our familial, societal and cultural constructs so that we can actually dream the best version of ourselves into being? Pete?
Yes, well, the game of life is a very good analogy. And I remember the game, literally called the game of life from the 80s. But, in order to play the game of life well, I think, we want to play a good game. We want to play the long game, because from an early age, what we find, what we found or what we find is that we've been obviously conditioned, right? We've been conditioned by many different people, many different inputs. And what we have to do is we have to make sure that we recognize the patterns, because if we don't recognize the patterns, then history starts repeating itself, as we've said on a number of occasions. And ultimately, the way in which we tend to go about life before we've recognized these patterns is that we respond to it based on the programming that we got from the parents that we had, or the supervisors or whatever, what we got from society, and we end up kind of going through life often on autopilot. So we miss the opportunities to think about who we are and self-reflect. Obviously, occasions will occur where we get opportunities to kind of stop, look inwards, and we can figure out what to do. But in the main, all of us are guilty of just kind of like a lot of the time just going through the motions. But to add to that conditioning, we've also got another situation now where we're once again being kind of asked to focus externally. So first off, we've got the conditioning whereby our life is happening according to programs that have been instilled to us from an earlier age. And so we're not thinking or looking inwards, we're just looking out and just kind of going through the motions. And now the narrative, whether you agree with it or not, is that once again, you want to have your focus outwards and do the right thing for society. So what's happening is that you've got a situation which is being compounded. You've got the original stories that you're going through and following. in life through your conditioning, which is having you see life and look outwards and just kind of react to what's happening rather than looking inwards and finding out what's really going on. And now we've got the compound on top of that, which is don't think about yourself, think about everybody else. So again, it's this externalization that's going on. So at what point does the internalization begin and you start to do your proper inward self-reflection? This is really what I guess is leading us to a precipice. We've got to make a decision to either turn inwards or forever be focused on the external.
Great points, Pete. And you're right. The only way to play a good game is to really take full responsibility for ourselves, and that's taking responsibility for our thoughts, our behaviours, how we show up in the world. And we can do this by really getting clear on what we stand for. What do we value in life that's non-negotiable? Because as you were saying, we've kind of been asked to compromise on something that might be important to us for the greater good or the sake of others. And the greater good according to who, right? And so this is the first step to discovering who you are. And I'll give an example from my life story. Excuse me. Is that I had experiences where I didn't feel acknowledged. And so for years, I just felt this deep sadness and disappointment. And no matter how hard I tried, nothing would change. It made no difference. And then I just began to realize that actually I wasn't acknowledging my self and my needs, and I was allowing these situations to perpetuate. So I started to focus on acknowledging myself and my needs and meeting my needs by putting those first. And then, slowly started to transmute that sadness into happiness. So, Pete, have you got a similar story that you'd like to share with the audience?
Yeah, I do. yeah. It resonates quite a lot, actually, in terms of not being true to yourself. So there was somebody in my life that was, close to me and my family, and they were, well, they are, I mean, they're still around, right? But they are of a different generation, different cultural upbringing, and the way in which they would talk about certain issues and certain language they would use was definitely not in alignment with who I am. It wasn't in alignment with who my partner was or who our children are. And going back to the story that I was telling a few weeks ago about me playing out a story on the back of my dad dying when I was really young, about not wanting to have conflict. This was one such time when that story came into full effect. And essentially what was happening was that said person was doing what they were doing, and I just let it go to kind of keep the peace. Until one day, the peace ended because they said one thing, and that was when the camel's back was broken by the straw. Now, ultimately, it was a pretty major kind of blow up. It was a kind of a World War III kind of situation, to the extent that I didn't know whether it was going to be, fixable or reconcilable. The issue being that I had not honoured myself by allowing said person to do what they were doing in my presence for an extended period of time. So there was an internal battle going on. One part of me was saying, don't say anything. The other part was saying, say something. Like, no, yes, no, yes, no. Until the friction kind of got too much and it exploded. The bombs went off and there were casualties of war, shall we say. Luckily, for the sake of other people involved, over time, it's been sorted. But lesson learned was that it didn't need to get to that stage, anywhere near that stage, because all I had to do was be true to what I find and deem acceptable and not tolerate something that is, in my opinion, just out of order and totally unnecessary. So that was a good number of years ago, probably about 10 years ago now. A lot was taken and learned. A lot of learnings was taken from that situation, and that ain't ever happening again. But ultimately, as you go, as you make these transitions, initially you may feel it's a little bit uncomfortable to kind of stand your ground, as it were. But what you have to do is you have to practice. You have to get used to doing more and more of it until it becomes a natural part of who you are. Because it is a natural part of who you are, just that you haven't been used to expressing it on a regular basis. So start now if you haven't been doing it. Get into the habit of doing it, and then you then begin to start to live who you are, and you won't see these unnecessary blow-ups occurring. So there you go.
Yeah, wow. So, we've both kind of had a similar awareness of the disempowering patterns that were playing out in our lives, and starting to notice when we were falling back into those default programs, I guess. And as you said, neither of us were really standing up for ourselves. And I think the more, as you were saying, the more that we do start to put this into practice, and although it's going to feel uncomfortable, like with anything, it gets easier and easier as we keep doing the practice. And there's never a destination that we're going to get to either. The journey of life is a journey, so we're always going to come up with new life experiences and challenges that we have to have another opportunity to put these learnings into practice. And I think we've talked through the whole series that it's about placing our attention on our intention, and then we can start to sort of dream a new dream into our lives. And then a lot of that depends on whether we're open to actually receiving this new dream, right? Because if we don't believe it's possible, then we're not going to actualize it.
That's right.
So some of the things that Pete and I have been talking about is that we can share with you that help you build a new story for yourselves. Is one of the things was to actually be aware of the emotional support system that we have around us, if at all, and certainly build one, right? And really looking at who do we have around us, who are we inviting into our lives, who do we partner with in life and business, and who are those people that are going to be our cheerleaders and cheering us on and encouraging our success. Who is the person that we can turn to when times have hit a rough patch? Who's going to be looking out for you and holding you accountable for what you said you'd like to do or going to do? And equally, who can you share your dreams with? And that's actually going to share that dream with you and keep it safe, keep it protected. And of course, who can you learn from? Who are your coaches and your teachers in life? And who can you, it's an important one, who can you have fun with? Because, if we are playing a game of life, then, playtime should be fun, right?
It should. And that's an important point to remember, about not taking it too seriously, although we know that can be tough to do at times. But, to your point about choosing, what's that saying? Keep your friends close, keep your enemies closer. But no, I mean, in terms of choosing who, are your support structure. As you were talking there, I had this vision, and I'm sure most of the audience have gone bowling before, 10-pin bowling, and now there's a thing where for the younger ones, you can pull up these little ramps, little bumpers. I think it's called bump and ride. Mm-hmm. And the idea is so that the ball doesn't fall into the gutter, go into the abyss. And it's a bit like, those bumpers are the same as the roles that our friends, our guides, our teachers, our coaches play in our lives. The actual bowling lane is our life, if you like. The ball is us. The direction is forward. But if we veer too far to the left or to the right, we can get into the gutter, right? And so the friends, our acquaintances, our support structure, they are the bumpers that give us the feedback and knock us back on track. And so, they're there for us to lean on when needed. And sometimes, they'll lean on us when it's needed, but they are the kind of the guiding rails to help us get through life and push forward in a forward direction, in a way that is best for us. So we need to choose them carefully because they play an essential part.
I really like that analogy, Pete. That's really and
Yeah,
it reminds me. You were saying, I think it was only last week, that we have to be, you do have to be discerning of who we share our hopes and dreams, and especially even our fears, because as we've discovered, not everyone has our best interests at heart. So really um, being mindful of who we share these with, because then we also start to understand, well, what role are these people playing in our lives?
that's
Both, our role in their life and their role in our life, right?
That's it. And I guess another thing to kind of progress on from that is the feedback that we get isn't just about how for us to be in a certain scenario, right? It's not about, okay, well, I need to be this person, when I'm with my friends. The real me comes out when I'm with my friends, and when I'm, acting as a father or an employee or a boss or whatever, I'm acting in a different way. It's not about that. It's not about that at all. The idea of the learnings that we're talking about, and the idea of going inside and rediscovering the essence of who we really are, is so that we can bring it out and inject it into all of the roles that we play, right? So, me as the social person, me as the dad, me as the employer, me as the boss. It's an always on thing. It's not a conditional thing. It's not something that we kind of roll out for Christmas or for special occasions. Like when you go and bring out the best china or the best crockery. This is a full on thing that is about the totality of your life. So as you begin to tap into who you are, find out the secrets and the rememberings of who you are, you want to deposit that in every possible scenario of your life as you possibly can, because then that becomes a kind of holistic representation of who you are. You are you, no matter what direction you're facing, no matter what clothes you're wearing, no matter who you're speaking to. That is what this authenticity is all about.
Yeah, and that takes me back to the first series that we put out in the first episode about who is behind the mask, because of course, until we become aware of it, we are wearing those masks depending on what role we're playing that particular day or time. So,
Exactly.
and as well as looking forward to who we are becoming, one of the things I found useful was to kind of look back at myself and look back and observe myself as a child. What did I enjoy doing? How did I spend my time? Who did I spend it with? And for example, I realised that one of the things I enjoyed doing with my grandma was playing schools. And bless her, she had to put up with a lot of instructions from me of what task she was doing that day, and she did a good job at playing along with me. But I realise now that actually I am a teacher, and it's not just because of a job that I do. It's actually inherent in me. I love learning and I love sharing what I'm learning with other people, and that's part of who I am. So by learning who we are, and with certainty really owning that, we start to become more masterful at our life.
Yes, beautifully encapsulated. And I would just say that to the audience, remember that you are the director and you are the star in the story of your life. You've got the power to course correct and change the course of your destiny, instead of being stuck in, I guess, circumstances and situations that you're not happy with, and in a situation where you feel that life is living you instead of you living life. And if you can set a clear intention, if you can believe that you have the power, then you certainly can, and you certainly will, and you certainly do. So there is a jewel of beauty, there is a jewel of passion, there is a jewel of potential within all of us. All we need to do is reach in, take it out, and then let that lead us along the life path. And it will be a whole different ballgame, a whole different ballgame.
Yeah, I really like that. Thank you for that summary at the end, because what's that saying about, finding the diamond in the rough or something? Is that right? That's what you mean.
Yeah, that's right. That's it. Yeah. Just, dust it down, polish it up, and it's always been there. The jewel's always been there. It's always been
there. Nice. So thank you. Right. And so as we draw to a close, I'd like to invite you to just stop for a minute in your day and really feel alive. Really feel fully present in your surroundings right now. Notice your breathing, notice the beat of your heart, notice the thoughts and the accompanying emotions, and perhaps consider, is it time to dream a new dream? So if you're ready to dream a new story into creation, grab a complimentary session by contacting us at www.wearetacc.com and discuss a coaching program just for you. And you can also join this discussion by submitting any comments or questions to our Facebook page, which is the Academy of Conscious Creators. And we will answer those in our weekly live short answer session every Wednesday at 7 p.m. And do join us again next week at 8 p.m, where our topic for discussion will be making meaning out of our stories. So until then, thank you, Pete.
Thank you. It's been great to be here again.
Good night, everyone. Have a good evening.
Good night.